Welcome back to Anonymators Review. We're reviewing The Prophet, this time with spoilers! Pew, wee, 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 red light and all that stuff. I'm Wesley Boone.
I'm Emily Strasser.
And let's begin. Okay, so the film is, as we've discussed, it's about everything, I guess. The main story, the main premise, which I guess is what the book is about, is there's a poet. There's a poem hidden away. Now there's a poet who's who I guess is under house arrest, away from the rest of the city, and he is I guess charged on acts of treason, and acts of sedition, which would be, by the government in charge on this little island. They're like, no, they don't want people thinking for themselves, type of thing. They see it as him trying to start a rebellion. And so they lock him away for 7 years. And this movie is basically after all of that happens. And it starts off with a little girl, whose name, again, I have...
One second.
Almitra. Yes, Almitra, who is a wily little girl who doesn't speak because of her father's death, I guess.
Yeah,
she's had a traumatic experience.
Yeah, she stopped speaking after the death of her father, and then rebels because you know how children are when they don't know how to express themselves.
Yeah, let's steal things and make mom's life difficult.
I like this girl, so I'm going to hit her.
Yeah,
that seems counterintuitive.
Well done, kid. You've gotten your message across. No, okay, but I mean, to be all fair, it is. Yeah. The animation for the main sequence, which we should have really talked about, I guess, in the breakdown.
Oops.
But the animation for the main sequence is it's completely different from the poems. Now the poems they have their own little animation sequences, and then and they're each unique in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the main story. Now I'm not 100% sure what this animation style was. It kind of, to me, it looked like 3D models done with like a cell shading technique.
That looks exactly
something like a Wind Waker style, that. Or I've seen it with a Dragon Ball Z game too, where and then it's just got that outline.
Yeah.
And I feel that's what it was done. I've seen it in other animations too, but not as well. This was a really top-notch form of that animation, and so obviously the technology's come a bit of a way.
I think it still has a bit of a way, because it still looks. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if I know people are trying to make it look 3D. But they're trying to make it look 2D, but still 3D. I don't know. I'm not really sure. It's interesting. It's interesting to watch, especially watching it on the big screen. You can kind of see some of the lines kind of...
Yeah.
I speak in onomatopoeia.
Yeah, of course. I can see it. I don't know, like, the acting definitely comes across, where it's needed.
It wasn't Disney quality, I felt. I don't know how you felt about some of the acting in it, but some of it felt a little like it was done by just graduated.
Can you give me an example?
I don't know. I guess maybe some of the timing was kind of samey to me. I don't know. Like maybe if it was an animation that, I don't know. I really can't actually.
Okay. No. I get you. I can't think of really. I mean, sure, there's some smoothness that could have been dug out, but I think a lot of it was with the style of the movie anyway.
It was definitely consistent in its style.
Yeah, I liked it. I'll say that much. There was no real part of it that looked like bad animation in the main sequence.
Heavens no! Yeah. I'm not suggesting that at all. It was all good animation. I don't know.
You just weren't a fan of the design.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just because I was a little put off by the look of it. But that's just my personal. It's all good animation, very consistent, except for the part with the sheep, which was obviously someone hand drew that. It was not a 3D model. You remember when they're in the town?
Oh yes, I know. Yeah. Okay. So there's a sequence where they're busy. Well, they're just about to enter town because they have to walk from the prophet's house to the town.
Oh yes.
Because the policemen are taking him to his ship, quote unquote. And so there's a sequence where Almitra sort of antagonizes a ram, and he gets him to tackle the police officer, and the police officer gets hit on his head, and well, not on his head, but he gets hit and then falls on his head. And it's yeah, I guess the ram definitely stood out style-wise. I'm not sure why they would have done that.
Yeah, because all the humans and all the other animals were 3D models, so...
Yeah, like the seagulls, which were quite prominent.
I don't know. That really stood out to me, and I don't know why. I don't know if, like, that animator was just like, no, I'm not doing this animation sequence with 3D models, I must hand-draw, and everyone was just like, you know what? Fine. Do...
Yeah. Yeah, like, I wouldn't imagine, I wouldn't imagine why that reason is. Well, I couldn't imagine, at least.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a very lovely ram. It was a very lovely sequence, and it was nice to see it, but at the same time, it was definitely, it stood out from the rest of the film.
Well, yeah, of the main sequence. Yeah, so the whole thing, I mean, the wedding, so when they get into town, is it before...
Should we probably start over, because we didn't really get too much into... Because we...
Well, I'm gonna save the poems for later.
No, not the poems. I mean the just basically the plot. We kind of.
I think we should. I don't want to like sort of break down the movie.
Oh, okay.
Like that, like how we've done in the past. I want to sort of talk about, like, I don't know, whatever comes to our mind and what we like.
Okay,
and so we can remain unfiltered because this is the spoiler episode. So
right. Oh yes, of course. Hello.
But anyway, the wedding sequence was really beautiful too.
Yes.
So they walk in on the way back from the house. So okay, I guess there is a little bit of establishment that is needed between the releasing of the prisoner and then escorting him to the boat, aka or the jail. They meet different people and they get chances to sort of say different poems. So the poem that happens here is the poem about marriage, and is it love as well? Or does he only talk about... he talks about love later. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, about marriage, and then he sort of gives the blessing and explains how a marriage and a partnership works. Great poem, by the way. One I've said that I've really liked before, because it's not only just about marriage. It could be used as an extension to a marriage of friends, in the sense of just to your relationship with your buddies.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you don't always have to be near each other all the time to, you know, the greatest friendships are, you know, the two of your strengths working together rather than, you know, having to constantly do the same thing all the time together. You know, that's not what it's about. and then, yeah. So, but anyway, I want to talk about that little sequence. I like the couple. Like how that see, that's where I like the acting, because I mean it was like there's this couple kissing, they've just gotten married, and the father's like, let her eat, and she picks up like a thing to eat, and he just keeps kissing her, and she's like, oh whatever, and drops the snack.
And I just looked at you like, I get that sideways glance at you.
Yeah, and you was being, well, I do it to you.
Well, I'm sure that's how other people see us.
Yeah, well, I don't care. I know I hate PDA, but yeah, I don't mind giving it. So
I've noticed that. I still hate PDA, but dangnabbit, when I'm with you, I'm like, no, I wanna hug you.
I tried to refrain. Anyway, the internet doesn't need to know this. But yeah,
we're one of those gross couples you see in public transit, and you're just like, oh, get a room.
But yeah, so. I just really like that whole little sequence, the couple kissing, and just they looked so happy, you know, genuinely happy. You know, I thought there was some really good acting. The acting I didn't like in that part though was the old man.
Oh yeah.
He was the only acting I didn't really like, because he felt goofy, you know, like silly, where everybody else felt realistic. And yeah, so I don't know how you felt.
It didn't stick out to me at all. So
yeah, it was just the old man. Really, he was like, I mean, his joke was funny. Where he was like,
yes.
I haven't kissed a pretty girl in so long that the last time I kissed a pretty girl was the Dead Sea was still sick or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great. It was a great little one-liner.
What else? Yeah. The the town sequence with where everybody's like giving him food and everything. Like and then beginning to forgive Almitra, because Almitra, the little girl who's causing trouble, she's like always like stealing snacks, and she can talk to seagulls apparently. And she steals snacks and she steals toys, and that's how you get introduced to her. And then she accidentally breaks. She falls off a roof tile.
Oh yes.
Or a roof through slipping on a tile, breaks a display or two, and then they're all like, oh, getting angry at her, and the mom's like, I'm so sorry, I'll pay for this later. And then they're like, what about the stuff she stole? And the mom like takes the stuff out of her pocket, throws it on the ground, like, we don't steal, and runs away. Obviously the village is like all, like we're gonna deal with this all the time, and it's a small village, it seems like.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's how you sort of meet Almitra. But she is busy trying to help, and she's mute again, to clarify that, because that's a very important part of the character. And yeah, while she's following the prophet back to the boat / jail, she's hearing all of his poems too.
Yes.
And I guess learning as well. And that was one of the things too, because remember when she sees the boat coming in, she imagined that she was the sail flying far away. So I imagine she feels trapped too.
Yeah.
Is probably one of the themes of her character. And when she first meets him and he tells her, don't worry, we're not prisoners.
Yeah.
We don't have to be prisoners. Like, and then, oh yeah, and that poem about prison, that about with those birds getting captured. But, yeah,
oh gosh.
Yeah, that was a very interesting, like, because I like the line in that poem. I have not seen people more imprisoned than those who speak of their freedom. And it reminds me of another quote that we cannot. I'm paraphrasing it completely. It goes something along the lines of we cannot become adults until we stop worrying about childish things. In the sense, yeah, the quote is much better than the way I'm expressing it, but basically it means we can enjoy childish things. If we are no longer concerned with childish things is really the thing. If we can enjoy watching cartoons, and if we're adults if we don't give two shits how people see us watching cartoons. You're a kid if you're watching a cartoon and feeling like you shouldn't be watching a cartoon. You understand?
Yeah.
Whereas then if you're watching a cartoon as an adult and you're enjoying it, then but you don't care. And if someone's like, oh, you're watching a cartoon, you're like, well, yeah, I like it. What does it matter?
I'm an animator.
Yeah, well,
what did you think I did?
You don't even have to be an animator. You can like whatever the hell you like.
Yeah.
If you're not afraid of your childish things, but it's like, don't be embarrassed by them. You're a child if you're embarrassed by them, and you're not. So the same thing with freedom. If you're obsessed with your freedom, you're most likely bound by it, and it's like if you're free when you don't talk about your freedom. And I like that concept because if you're not focused on and that can be applied to anything really. It's like you're not bound by that thing if you don't talk about it. If you just experience it and then enjoy it, and so yeah, I guess she's her own prisoner in this whole sequence, and that's her poem. The poem of childhood is obviously for the mother and how to raise her kid, I guess. The poem of marriage is for the newlywed couple.
It's the poem about children, pardon, isn't so much about how to raise your children as much as it is about like.
Well, what's your responsibility?
Yeah.
Your responsibility isn't to put your thoughts into your kid, which a lot of people try to do. Sometimes they're like, no, they want you to live. I guess parents are like, I want you to have my experiences. And not all parents, obviously, just some.
Yes.
But the responsibility of the parent isn't to force their thoughts and ideals onto the child. It's just to get that child to grow up and move on to the next generation.
Yeah, something about like gosh, I don't remember where initially learned this, but it was basically like, you know, your responsibility as a parent is more about giving your children the tools in which to become an adult, and then you just have to leave the rest to them.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about you must live as I live. It's this is why, you know, this is why
you can always put, you know, you can always put guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, well, this is how I live, and if you want to live like this is what I would recommend you do.
Yeah.
But if that's not how you want to live, well, all I can do is feed you and then put you out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, feed, clothe, house, and
like, do what you want, but all I can do is support you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's that's that poem. Definitely. So everybody in the story gets a poem. I mean, even the police chief, I think, gets a poem, doesn't he? Well, not the police chief, but the main guard, doesn't he? I'm not too sure.
Not the main guard, but like
the guy who's in love with the the guard in the house. He gets a poem. His poem's about love.
Yes.
Then there's the people who work in town. Their poem is about work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because they believe that Mustafa's poetry is better than the work that they do, like they're manual labor, and he's like, no, all work is equal as long as you work. And you have something to say about that poem, don't you?
I do, because like, you know, for me personally, it felt like for a long time I was stagnating. Like, it didn't feel like, yes, I was working, but it didn't feel like I was really getting anywhere with my life. It didn't feel like I was contributing. And I mean, even I've talked to friends who say I don't feel like other animators who feel like I just don't feel like I'm contributing. But, you know, the thing is that you're working, you know, you are contributing to the whole of society, you know, paying your taxes and your paying your bills and paying for your food.
Yeah.
Contributing.
It's there's a little bit of a philosophy again. I mean, I'm paraphrasing so much, but I'm a little tired tonight, so but there's a concept, the Western way of thinking, especially the modern Western way of thinking, is everything is about the individual, me, mine. Why? Like, we've removed. I saw TED talk about this. We've removed God, or the country, or the greater good, the tribe. We've removed the tribe out of the equation. It's now about me. I want the big screen TV.
Yeah.
So it's mine. You know, I want to be the greatest animator. I want to be the greatest contributor in this field. It's not like I want to contribute into this field to make it better, so everybody can benefit from it. It's like, no, the which is what you're going to do, but that's not the way we see it. And whereas in the East, in Japan in particular, I remember the idea is like a lot of the time. Now, again, Japan is like super overworked. A lot of the time, the poor people are just dead from stress. But there is a belief, and I like to follow this belief a bit, where if they say if anybody can do something, if anybody in the group can do something, then I should be able to do it too. So, you know, like if you're a good artist isn't necessarily a good example, but let's talk about office job. If everybody in the office is able to type, I should be able to type too. And if nobody in the office is able to do something, I should at least be able to do something. The idea is you're working together constantly. So if there's nobody in the office who can do the thing, like let's say typing again, I mean, it's a simple example, but it's an example. You at least you got one person who's capable of typing, and then he can maybe teach, and you guys can, you know. The idea is it's there for the greater good.
Yeah.
We don't really have that in the West. The thinking is, oh, I'm the typer now. Like, I can type, and I'm not going to teach anybody else. I paid for the lessons to learn how to type. And, you know, it's a little bit more of a selfish way of thinking.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's completely bad. There is benefits, I guess, to focusing on your own talents and promoting yourself for the better of everyone else. But that's not what I'm trying to get at here.
Oh, there was also, if I may, there was also another point about like being idle that really struck a chord with me, because like as I was telling you earlier, like I've got one person that I know who is who just like is very idle. Like there was a mention of the poem in the poem about like to be idle is to stop being in sync with the with the cycles of the earth or something.
Yeah.
And it really struck me because I have one example of someone that I know who just is just idle, just doesn't contribute, very me oriented, and I see him stagnating a lot, and yet on the other hand, I've got another friend of mine who very hardworking. I mean, this poor guy worries himself sick, but he just kept working and working, and it took him years. He's working these minimum wage jobs, these awful, terrible jobs, but he just has this goal in mind. He's just, I gotta keep working. And he finished his school, and I mean, now because he was working so hard and kept in sync with what it was that he wanted to do, now he's got himself a really lovely girlfriend, living in his own apartment with her, and starting his own YouTube channel. I mean, it's amazing, the contrast. Yes, it took him years to get there, but because he was always working, always striving to this goal, he managed, now he's doing it. So I don't know, to me it was a really lovely reminder, because for me personally, it felt like I was stagnating, but I was always working. At least I for the most part. Often there were times where I was just like, I don't want to do anything today. Go curl up in bed, not talk to anyone.
Yeah, but everyone's allowed those.
But I was always drawing, and I was always making stuff, and entering contests. Just anything I could do to keep working.
Yeah.
And as you know, it finally paid off. So yay!
Yeah, and like that's the nice thing about all these poems. Something you said in the previous cast was there's a poem for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I liked also how in the show he gives a poem. Each different poem is for a different person.
Mm.
Even though you can relate to more than one poem.
Mm-hmm.
Like. Like I don't relate to. I mean, I related to the marriage poem not because I'm not interested in marriage, but I am interested in relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why in any way, like I'm friends, girlfriends, whatever. It's like maintaining a relationship.
Girlfriends.
Well, past and present.
I'm just.
I'm not sure what you're talking about. But my point is maintaining relationships, parents, siblings. It was a nice way of sort of seeing all of that. It's a much better way to not, because I can get rather jealous of friends sometimes, where I can. I do. I know this. I can control it, but it doesn't stop the feeling from showing up. I mean, I don't act on those feelings. But I can get, like, if I see a friend hanging out with another friend, and I'm like, and they didn't invite me, I'm like, well, I get bummed out, But I'm like, yeah, but they don't need me there all the time, and this poem sort of that creates that sort of feeling. And then the poem Good and Evil, as I said, that related to me a lot because I used to be an activist back home, so sometimes I would fight, but the thing is, I got to this point where the fighting didn't make sense anymore, and I started doing this thing where, I mean, I'd always tried to think on both sides of the fence, like, this is how I feel about something, but I would always question why would that person feel the other way, like, why would you feel we don't deserve like more money for our education, for example? Why? What would be? And I would sit and I would think about that, and that's why I like that poem so much about the good and evil, because it's like evil's not. You don't think you're being evil sometimes.
Yeah.
Like your acts could be considered evil, but you're not being evil. It's just the byproduct of your actions, and I'm not saying that's right. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying it's like it's nice to understand the other side too, and I mean, another line of like, the fruit of a tree should not judge the roots of the tree, because the roots take but the fruit gives, and it's different actions but part of a grand scheme of things, And in this case, it was talking about the government, like the government is taking because this is what it feels they need. But, you know, even though, like, I don't know, there's... the ending could have... I think maybe the book could probably explain a little bit more, because, okay, towards the end of the... Well, the end of the film is... we're jumping a little bit ahead, I guess, but the end of the film, main character, Mustafa, he gets shot for acts of treason. And his only acts were writing poetry. And then one of the poems was like, oh, woe is the... he wrote like 7 years before, which is probably the poem that got him arrested, is woe is are the people who lie down and let the government rule them without them fighting, and them only fighting once they are locked in chains or something like that. And yeah, from a government blind standpoint of just reading what it says, you know, it's like, sure, you can see that this is just a poem to start a rebellion. But that's not what the poem was being about. The poem was saying, don't stand up for yourself when it's too late to stand up for yourself, which is very evident of what we do here in modern day times, like modern day, but like in the current time, it's
the here and now.
Yeah, it's you have. I mean, look at the. I'm trying to think of an example of something that we've.
I'm sure we've discussed it before.
Yeah, but it's like we're not standing up for things anymore, or at least it doesn't feel like it. Like, and if you look at the civil rights movement, that just felt like they were trying. And I mean, they stopped. There's definitely the echo of the civil rights in the same way. Like, I feel we have the echo of the apartheid. Those aren't my words. I just love using the phrase "echo of" because it was like there was this loud noise of standing up for themselves, and then it just quieted down. And these aren't my words as a white person. These are the words I've read from, well, blacks, because that's what I call them. I know they're called African Americans here in North America, but back home we call them blacks. I'm from South Africa.
Are they called that here in Canada?
I don't know. I don't know. I think African American in Canada too. It's just so weird because I mean back home, like, the blacks refer to themselves as blacks. It's like there's no political correct term in a country where there's a lot of black people.
Oh gosh, it was like it's like shoot, it was like someone called Nelson Mandela an African American. It's like,
oh wow.
It's like that's not correct.
I think that term is really ridiculous, honestly. And in the same way, I think Caucasian Americans should definitely be called Caucasian Americans or Euro Americans. I love that.
Oh, who was it? Your one of your favorite comedians, Trevor Noah.
Trevor Noah, yeah, that's
makes a joke about that.
Yeah, his shtick, because it was like Americans are the white people, and then the Native Americans are your Native Americans. You know, the natives of the land. Which I mean, they should be called the Americans.
Yeah.
And then Euro Americans are white Americans, and then African Americans are black Americans. But obviously, that's not how the system works. I'm gonna actually do that. That's what I'm gonna stop. Yeah. That's gonna be my little stand for the week.
Hey, if you ever end up in the States, you can actually call yourself an African American.
Oh, for sure. I mean, even here, because I mean, I'm on the American continent.
Oh yeah. So. Oh hey, get your dual citizenship.
So yeah.
Just confuse people very much. Just like, what?
Where were we anyway before this? Completely friggin'. Right, well, okay, well, I'm gonna just jump where I remember where we were last off. Is pretty much he gets killed for his poems.
Yes, but the girl and her mother, they go rescue the poems from his house because the you know what the police guards are trying to do is they're trying to burn all of them.
They're trying to get rid of him and his so like the people are inspired by his words because his words, I mean, they're inspirational. The poems are beautiful. They're simple to understand, but they're profound.
Yes.
You know, and to me that's a way more efficient use of your art than making it complex. Again, I'm not. You know what? It's like I don't want people to believe that I'm like, oh no, everything should be simple. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's just you can reach more people in certain ways, you know. And I mean, I guess it depends on what you're trying to say, but.
Well, like for me personally, when I was in college and I was in the creative writing courses or like in the art courses, and it felt like they were being written for the people that they were it was like they were being written for the people who were going to read it, not the people who might read it or who might be interested in it.
You're saying so it's like, yeah, it's like written for a particular group.
Yeah.
Of people who have, like, say, you know, I wouldn't say, because I think learning, like, the English language alone, with its millions of words, like, there's so many, there's like words that describe just like one thing. The corner of a cupboard has a word for it, I'm sure of it. Or the, you know, like, it's not the corner of the cupboard, it's like whatever. I don't know if there is a word for it, but that's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many words to describe everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, there's a feeling of a feeling.
It gets even more complicated. That's actually one of the things I love, is learning, like, words in other languages that don't exist in the English language, like Schadenfreude.
Yeah, Schadenfreude. Yeah, no, I mean, there's an Italian word, I think it's Italian.
By the way, Schadenfreude is a getting the
feeling of joy at seeing someone else's misfortune.
I love that word. It's so brilliant.
Yeah, I wish I could remember this word right now, but there's a word. I just love it. Okay, well, now there's two words I'm remembering. One is the ring from a glass of whiskey. The precipitation that then forms the water ring. That has a word. I think it's an Italian word, and it's like, and then there's a word for the sip of your first glass of whiskey. And then another word I don't remember the words, but I just love the fact that these words exist.
Yeah.
There's another word for looking into a forest and feeling lonely. Just like, it's like you look into the forest and you feel lonely. Only when you do that, you can look into the sea and feel lonely, and that's a different word. But I look into the forest and I feel lonely, and that's a whole different. I think that's like a Gaelic word or something.
There's listomania, which is like you are just addicted to music. I think it's like you just have to keep listening to music. There's also a word for, it's in the English language, the feeling you get when you watch other people, like on public transit or something, and you have the profound feeling of, I am not alone in my thoughts. There's other people also thinking thoughts and having feelings the same way I do.
Well, that's like the complete opposite of solipsism. That's awesome.
It's quite beautiful.
I wish I could have that feeling, because I feel solipsistic all the time, and I hate it.
I bounce between the two. It depends on how I'm feeling.
You're lucky. Anyway, so, but that's a great thing. And so I'm not saying, like, you can't use expressive words and descriptive words and words that mean that one thing, you know? I mean, like, what's the word for that plastic thing around a shoelace? The tip of the shoelace, an inglet or something like that? There's, like, so many, you know, like, there's words for every little thing. And I love it. I really, really do. But sometimes when you're trying to paint a picture with your mind, you know, your words have to be able to reach a lot of people. And these poems do. I never felt stupid listening to these poems.
Yeah.
You know? And it always felt, not saying that I feel stupid listening or reading other poems, but, like, I'm going to use Edgar Allan Poe as an example. When I was reading him a lot in my teen years, because that's when you read Edgar Allan Poe. Because when else would you? Like, I always felt like an idiot, because I had to pull out this dictionary. Now, to be fair, as a teenager, you don't really know that many words, but I had to have a dictionary or a thesaurus next to me while I'm reading this, because I'm like, what the hell does that mean? And so it would take me ages to get through a poem, because, you know, I can't think of an example of a word, but there's definitely, there's words.
I'll have to look at it.
That Mr. $20 word has to keep using every
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know why Poe's in. It's probably because you got this plaster on you that's.
Oh yes, for those who didn't listen to the last episode, my mother some years ago gave me Edgar Allan Poe bandages that actually work as actual bandages, and so I have one. I scratched myself while cleaning the other day, and so I just have this Edgar Allan Poe bandage on my head.
So he's on my mind a bit lately. He's always just watching. Okay, so I like the poetry. That's basically what I'm trying to say. Very accessible, let's put it that way.
Yeah, because there's, I get a little bit miffed at people who, they make these art pieces, but they make it so they make the meaning so covered up in all of these metaphors, and like you have to be well versed in all of this other stuff in order to get it. And then the artist gets angry because nobody gets what they're trying to say. You know?
Yeah, like they shouldn't get angry. Because if you're gonna make it complicated, you can't expect everybody to experience life the same way you've experienced life.
Yeah.
So obviously they wouldn't understand what you're trying to say, especially when you're hiding it.
Yeah.
Amongst like a metaphor behind a metaphor, and then it's like, well, there's no how was I? You know, I'm not here to see a puzzle. I'm here to experience a joy, and you're not giving me anything. You're giving me a puzzle.
I mean, there's one thing.
They have their place, but.
I mean, there's something to say about, like, you know, I mean, if someone does an art piece and they, you know, it's not meant to have an actual meaning, it's just meant to provoke a feeling. Sure. Doesn't matter what feeling, just as long as it says, oh, yes, that's quite brilliant, or, oh, I'm not really a fan of this, or, ooh, it looks so angry, you know, like, that's done. I mean, shoot, I don't know how people do that, but...
Yeah, but that could be for any art, and this art included both the poetry and the animation. The poems, the animation that follows the poems, and then the actual animation, the movie itself. All three definitely have very strong emotional ties. You barely know Mustafa, really. You know him because you can see how everybody else treats him, and you know him a little because you get introduced to this really friendly man who's done nothing but express his words. And when he gets shot at the end from execution fire, it's really sad. It's you really feel that something has been taken from this world.
Yeah, and he's even given a chance to save himself. They're like.
But at the cost of his belief.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, like he said, like, it doesn't matter now because my words are out there. Your piece of paper means nothing. But it would still destroy everything he stood for if he signed it.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of. I mean, again, this is obviously just a character in a book, but that does take a lot of guts, spirit, to just sort of stand up for yourself and get shot for your beliefs. Like a lot of people wouldn't do that.
Yeah, but I think he was also comforted in the fact knowing that the girl and her mother saved his works.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's sort of an ambiguity with the ending where, not really. That's probably, like, I think what I mean by ambiguity is that maybe she, now that she has her voice back, maybe she could, live out as he did.
Well, I think that, like, because in the end he gets shot, sure, but there's a ship sailing away, and you see like a ghostly image of him on the boat. I think the implications there are he lives on through his words.
Yeah.
He didn't die that day. He just his body left, but his soul stays in through his work.
Which is, I think, the goal of every artist. They want to live through their work.
Yeah, and I mean, there's this again paraphrasing another quote, but there was a quote that goes, "Books are a gateway, like a portal between somebody 1,000 years ago and now, and you're reading their words and you're connecting with them. That's like you're connecting with this person's mind at that while you're reading his thoughts really on this piece of paper, and it's like this one moment in time the book has captured, and it's like that doesn't happen with any other medium really. I mean, movies are great and all, but you don't think really in a movie you're shown. Where, I don't know, I guess you're shown in a book too, but you feel like you're thinking. Anyway.
Well, I don't know. I think with this movie in particular, because I know just because I'm shown images in movies doesn't mean I'm thinking. I'm not thinking, Yes, I am passively consuming the media, but that doesn't mean that I don't have a profound connection. It doesn't, for, like, this movie in particular, like, even though you're passively given all of these images, it's very like you have to take it all in and think, and, oh, yes, I see what you mean, and, oh, this is just like this part of my life. There's always something to connect to.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm trying to say with this.
I'm not exactly sure either.
I'm tired. It's been a very long day for both of us, so.
But okay, well, anywhere. Well, let's hop into the poems a little bit.
Okay.
Let's see if we can remember them in some order. First poem is Freedom, which is animation wise, I like the concept. If I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, because I could also be mixing up the sequences. But that's the one with the birds. They get captured because he flies out the window and then he starts talking about like, oh, we're only held by the beliefs of our mind.
No, that's a bit later, I believe.
Okay.
I think that's.
And what was the first poem where he flies out the window with Almitra?
I
Whoops. Okay, well, next poem at least, whether it's the first or the second, it's the motherhood or childhood or whatever. Again, in my opinion, the weakest of the animations, but gets the story across. I have mixed feelings when it comes to rotoscoping as well. I don't dislike it, but I wouldn't say like I'll watch it. Like, if I see rotoscoping, I'm like, ugh, rotoscoping. Because for the most part, there's very little rotoscoping I genuinely enjoyed. I can't even really think of one that I really loved. I mean, the only one I can sort of think that I might have liked was Scanner Darkly, but that was like, it was the movie. The movie was pretty much just shot through a filter. Yeah. The second one's about motherhood. It's we've pretty much spoken about that already. The next one,
Was it work?
no, well, I mean, okay, so the guard captain comes in, says he's free. They're all happy, and no, so there's no poem. They leave. Oh no, the next one is about marriage. I think don't they?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he goes out to.
Yeah, that's when they find the married couple, and we've spoken about that. Then there's one about, and then he gets to town. That's about work. Which, and it's such a nice, because I mean, obviously this prophet character is supposed to be humble, and one of the things about being a prophet is being a humble person, I guess. I mean, think of any other prophet really in history, and that's they're seen as a humble person. They don't think they're better than anybody else, and I mean, I think that's sort of a thing a lot of people should adapt. There's like no reason to believe you can appreciate somebody else being better than you, but you shouldn't think you're better than other people, or if you think it, you shouldn't act on it at least. But that was a pretty nice little poem too. The animation in that was the crayon animation, wasn't it? Yeah.
No, that was the.
No, that's the crayon animation.
The work one was the crayon animation.
Yeah.
Oh, we're on.
Or was it
work.
the eating one?
I think eating and drinking was also crayon. You've seen this movie once more than I have.
I'm trying to think because the work one was with the crayons, because it's got the man tilling with the horse, the bull.
Yes.
And then
I thought it was a donkey.
Well, the animal, the beast of burden. I don't remember the eating one that well.
That was I
just don't remember. I can't remember it right now.
It's unfortunately we can't really find the poems.
Yeah, we can't find the poem
or the list of poems. We tried. This is not really a widely released film, so.
Yeah, not at the moment. I mean, it got a February 2015 release, and then it's April now.
Yeah.
So we just watched it in the film house, in the bioscope. But I watched it at the film festival last year. I want to say October, but I can't remember.
It was like the same week that I had my fair, my job fair, so that was maybe October, November. Yeah, sounds about right. Why am I hiccuping?
I have no clue. Okay, but yeah, as far as the poems go, they're definitely accompanied by some really nice animation. I just can't really remember much. The I'm trying to think of what was the dance sequence was love, right?
That was marriage.
No, marriage was. Yes. Yeah, marriage had the really nice dance sequence.
Yeah, right? Love did have dancing in it, but it wasn't the dance sequence.
Yeah, and that was a song too. It wasn't a poem, straight up.
Yeah.
So
which is actually
love
one of my favorites.
Yeah, love has a really nice. Was it flamenco dancing? I don't know. Well, it's very impassioned dancing. And there was some really nice acting in there too. Even though the man had a very stoic, like face,
Yeah.
like the girl at least sort of had some like emotional facial responses.
That's because his face was shaped like a square.
Yeah. But the animation, the acting in the poem for love, I mean, you could sort of, like the two characters, they felt like they were in love. There was like the way that they embraced each other and just hugged each other and just wanted to be. And then there's that sequence where where they get covered in the red hoods.
Yeah.
And then they go through this like dancing sequence, which is just really beautiful.
It's genuinely sad, even though you don't even know the names of these characters.
Yeah, you really, really feel for them. It was so beautiful.
Yeah, and you see I don't remember, was it the man or the woman? They're like reaching out, and I think it was the woman who reaches out, and the man just sort of like watches.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know how to get out of this. Just hold on. And then she's like reaching out. She just got to, and then they eventually both just break away, and then they fall down into. But yeah, that was a nice. Yeah, it was a nice poem, nice animation. I can't really think of anything bad to say about this movie.
I know, it's really hard because everything was so profound. I mean, I guess the only thing I can really think of is that the ending was super sad, but that's not really like a critique of the film per se. It was just like, and I can understand the necessity of it, of the like, because I mean, if he lived, it's like, yay, kind of thing.
Well, I mean, for the sake of stories and for the sake of keeping his story alive, and I mean, I didn't feel his death was like let's make you feel sad. There's a name for that too.
Yeah.
I'm so tired. Yeah, there's a name for like they don't just try and make you feel sad. It's like, oh, this is a sequence of events that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like you kind of start knowing that's what's going to happen. Because I mean, even in the beginning when the god is like, I'll eat my hat if he makes it on that ship. It's already.
Yeah, they don't hide it. They don't hide that something's up.
Yeah, I mean, even by the time they get to Mustafa gets to the ship, he realizes, I guess, what's actually going on here. And yeah, even though he gets offered his choice of freedom at the cost of his beliefs, what yeah, it gets tricky because I mean, a coward would obviously be like, yeah, sure, I'll give up my beliefs, because then you obviously don't believe in them if you're willing to sell them out for whatever. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's like I don't know if putting myself in that situation, it's on one hand, you can always say from an honorable point of view, yeah, sure, well done. You live on through your work, but from a survival point of view, it's like it doesn't make sense. It's like, why would you?
Maybe that's the reason for the title of the book, because many prophets that I'm aware of, would, or just people like that, people who are just very humble, but they speak these very profound words, often get killed because of the things that they say. Not necessarily for religious prophets, but just people who.
Yeah, but the governments try to sort of avoid that sometimes because they're like, they don't want those people to be, they don't want them to die a martyr, and so it's like, it's very, yeah, I mean, I guess they thought they were going to get rid of all of his work, and then they obviously got there too late, and the daughter and the mom had stolen it already. And I guess we're going to print their own copies of it or something. I don't exactly know what they were going to do.
Well, that's where the ambiguity of the ending comes in. You're not really like, yes, they have the work, but who knows what they're gonna do with it. I guess it's left up to interpretation of the audience. It's like, write your own ending.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there might be more poetry from it too. Write your own ending. Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know. I don't really have much more to say about the movie. I mean, I've said pretty much everything that I'd like to say.
Yeah. I mean, I'd have to watch it again and to give you anything better to really nitpick or to really dissect. Dissect is the right word. To really dissect all the little sequences, because there are just so many. But I don't know, man. I greatly enjoyed this film.
No, look, for sure there's just so much that's nice to it. There's.
It's a breath of fresh air from the usual. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not one of those, everything that comes out in the mainstream is awful.
No, not at all. I'm quite the opposite. I enjoy every sort of bit of popular culture I can get.
Yeah, like hey, look, man, if it's in theaters and it looks interesting, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll watch it. I don't care. But every once in a while, it's nice to just get something different, and this was definitely different. So, tummy's making noises.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, again, my critique pretty much stands the same of go watch it and man, support it as best you can.
Download it on iTunes.
You know what?
Whatever.
You don't even have to like buy the DVD, honestly. Just watch it on a thing that I mean, look, I would recommend buying it, especially if you're a fan of animation. If you have like an animation collection, this movie has to go in there.
Oh, for sure.
If you're a fan of good storytelling,
if you're a fan of philosophy, if you just want something profound, this is like nutrition for the soul, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's for all ages. And even with the death of Mustafa, it's like
it's not the kind of film that you keep your kids quiet for 2 hours. It's more of sit and discuss things with your children.
Because kids will definitely have. I heard so many kids asking parents questions during the movie. And like after the movie too. Like when you went off, and then I was like standing in the lobby, and the kids were just like like it was just cute hearing some of the questions because like the answers obviously to them. Like what does this and that mean? And parents having to explain stuff.
If you want to discuss life and things with your children, this is a good way to open it up, at least. So.
Yeah, a very nice, calming way, very easily understood way. No doubt. I'd say watch it at least once. To anybody, I would recommend this film to. There's unless you hate animation, because animation killed your father when you were young, then sure, don't watch this movie. But it's a pretty fun film.
Yeah, it's
a pretty nice film, not fun. I mean,
I'm sure there's someone out there who hates it, but I'm pretty hard pressed to think of like.
Well, it got like a 6.5 on IMDb.
Oh yeah.
Which is a really weird score. I would have expected a little bit more. I mean, I don't expect a perfect 10. Because sure, there's room for improvement in a lot of sequences, but it wasn't. I mean, I've seen films with similar theories. I don't know. I think it could also be too soon for its rating. It's like maybe again it could just be like a critique rating, and those critiques don't know anything. So, what are critikers about movies now? Idiots. Anyway, so here's my critique about this movie. Come on, critiquers, get it together. No, it's just sometimes I've noticed I like the review sites that have a critique review and then a user review, and you'll usually find the user reviews a little bit more lenient. Yeah,
because I'm sure the critique review are like these film buffs. They've seen so many, and they're just like.
Oh no, look, for sure. I've definitely gotten a lot more critical in my rating system.
Well, you're definitely more critical than me, just because you've consumed much more media than I have. So.
Yeah, don't know what that really even means. Okay, so yeah, put it in your collection if you can, or just rent it on iTunes. I don't know. Does iTunes do rentals? I don't know, man.
I don't think so.
I would honestly say if it's on iTunes, buy it.
Yeah.
Just get the HD version, watch it. It's just beautiful.
It's really lovely. Just seriously, just please watch this film.
Yeah, the kids didn't seem agitated while watching it.
Yeah, the kids actually, like, they seem to enjoy it.
And there was a young audience in there too.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about like 14-year-olds or whatever. I'm talking about like 7-8-year-olds were sitting there. They were quiet, except for the occasional question here and there.
Yeah, they were very interested in it. They just, they just. That's why I say, if you want to watch this film with your child, and because they're gonna have questions, but that's not a bad thing, they're gonna be
just we had questions.
Yeah.
So.
So it's just like I said, it's food for the soul. It opens you up. I I don't know. I think I told you toward the end of the film, I felt like my heart was going to explode. I was just like, oh, it's just so much emotion. I can't even.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up. And yeah, I would say thank you for listening to us babble for an hour. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking about this and just letting my thoughts out and roam.
Yes.
I'm sorry that I'm a little bit tired and not as eloquent as I usually am.
We just wanted to record before we forgot.
Yeah. But yeah, if you guys want to say anything about this, corrections, yada yada yada, theanonymousanimators at gmail.com. We have a Tumblr at theanonymators.tumblr.com.
No, it's just Anonymators.
Just Anonymators. It is, colon. No, what are the inverted?
What?
Fuck,
Oh, http://anonymators.tumblr.com.
Yes, there we go. http://www.
No, there's no www.
/star.html.php.
Now you're just being silly.
I love it when like my gran would send me a link or tell me over the phone. It's like http. Yeah, no. You can send us messages and everything there. We'll also have everything in the YouTube description, but we'll have it. Jeez, I haven't updated Tumblr in a while actually.
Bad was.
I know. I'm sorry. Anyway, we'll do that. Please send us messages and ask us questions, and Emily will answer all your questions.
Me?
Yes, I will be the reader, and I will read it in a silly voice. And then, even if the question's directed at me, you have to answer it as me if you wish.
Okay.
That's how it's gonna be done, folks.
Okay.
This is me falling asleep, making up stupid stuff.
We're going to bed.
I'm gonna leave the recorder on for the next 2 hours, just recording my insane sleep rambles. Good night, guys. Enjoy. Thanks for listening, and Anonymators signing out.
Ayo.
In your longing for your greater self lies your goodness. Your children are not your children. And though they are with you, they belong not to you. What is it to work with love? Work is love made visible. My words are my wings, and you are my messenger.